On this episode of Money Matters with Jim Doyle, will your kid be a saver or a spender? Guests Allison Jones, Ida Harvey, and Cheryl Borgman help make their allowance go further. Plan more, worry less. This is Money Matters with Jim Doyle.
Financial literacy is necessary knowledge to make financially responsible decisions which are integral to our everyday lives. Teaching kids about money has a great impact on their future, empowering their transition to independence and adulthood. While parents may feel that financial literacy is their domain, many experience great difficulty talking to their kids about it. Financial literacy is an ongoing conversation. Unfortunately, this lack of communication produces harmful side effects. I sent Paige to ask, when growing up, was it normal for your family to have regular conversations about money?
When you were growing up, did your parents involve you in the conversations about money and finances?
Yes, they still do. We have legacy weekends where we go and we review the binder of all of the financial things that we're going to do if in the hopefully unlikely event that they pass away sooner rather than later. So we're very open about finances and about investments. My dad has always had open online RSP accounts and things like that we are quite transparent within the family. So yeah, definitely.
No, I wasn't. I learned about it just sort of by listening in to my parents' conversations, but I wasn't included in them.
To agree, they did, just a little bit. They always taught us that to put money away for a rainy day, and so I started investing my money when I was 18, 19 into RSPs.
We've seen a couple of different approaches here. Where do you think most families are on this subject?
Well, actually, I think most families don't talk very much with their children about money. I think that they're wanting, maybe they think they're going to protect their children by just letting them be children, and this isn't maybe something children should be talking about. Whereas, in fact, I think it's something that families should be talking about.
Ida, what are your thoughts on this?
Exactly the same thing. Like, money is still a taboo subject in many families, but it's not okay because we want our kids to be financially smart when they grow up. We want them to understand what to do when they finish high school. We don't want them ruin their credit scores because they didn't know, oh my God, I have to make a payment on the credit card. So we need parents to be involved and teach them.
I think what Ida's saying is very true, that these really are the foundations for success for them in their future. And really good parenting is about equipping them to be independent in the future. And the earlier the conversations start, the better.
Now, Ida, I'm hearing about equipping your kids with essential skills. What are your thoughts?
Exactly. We want our kids to be eventually independent. The role as a parent is to kind of, guide them so eventually we could let go.
And they're absolutely open to taking on this information, right?
Well, if we start at a young age, yes, we could make it fun for them, and it could be a fun subject. It's hard a little bit, but we could make it fun.
Now, I wish I had had some of this while I was in school. We'll be right back.
Well, I would hope that they would learn them at home. I don't know if the school systems teach them. I think maybe they're starting to now. In my day, they didn't.
Welcome back. In this segment, we're talking about the importance of financial literacy for kids. Is this a hot button issue for parents?
Well, I think it's a hot button issue in that it creates a lot of anxiety sometimes for parents. And actually, I think they avoid the conversations. And a lot of them don't have a clue how to talk to their children about money. Like, what do we do? And boy, if I start talking to my kids about money, are they going to blab to the neighbors about what I've told them about it? It's like this kind of secret, private thing you don't share with other people, and sometimes not even your children.
What I've just heard here, and I'm going to ask you to pick up on this for a moment, is, what do you tell your kids? What can you share?
Parents, a lot of times, they don't like to share because they feel they have to share what are the debts. I don't want them to worry, but you could share with them, okay, let's make a budget on little stuff. If we are open and make it not taboo, that's when things are going to get better, and that's when our kids are going to learn more.
So I'm going to ask Allison the same question. Do you think parents are very comfortable and open on this discussion?
No, I don't, but I completely agree with Ida in the sense that I think you do tell them. Now, of course, it's age appropriate, and I think that it's good, especially when they start asking questions.
I met up with Cheryl Borgman of Junior Achievement to share their thoughts. So Cheryl, why do you think it's important for kids to get involved in financial literacy programs?
Jim, I can't tell you how often I have spoken with students before one of our programs and really got the feeling that they don't have anybody at home covering off these topics with them. Teachers they've had in previous school years are not equipped to, teach them about financial literacy. We have high school students who are graduating and they are not prepared. They don't know how to budget. They don't know how to, really get themselves through post-secondary on their own. And they're not, being set up to be a successful contributor to the community and as a leader.
So how does Junior Achievement deliver one of these programs? What sort of things might they cover?
Some of the topics that we cover in our financial literacy programs are focusing on understanding the difference between needs and wants. We talk about being a smart and a savvy spender and saver. We talk about budgeting. We talk about understanding the differences between, GICs, debit cards, credit cards, all that kind of fun stuff.
So Ida, this one's for you if I can. Why do you think it's important for kids to be involved in financial literacy programs?
Because first of all, now I would say we're happy because in the new curriculum at school, they teach them, not enough, but it's important, as she was explaining, it's important for them to understand what's saving, what's budgeting, what's contributing to others. Like, it's important because we want them to become responsible.
Now, Allison, we touched on parents, carrying the load here. How are they doing with that job?
Well, I think unfortunately, this generation of parents isn't maybe carrying the load and they're just avoiding some of it. That's why it's great to reach out and bring in other people, but also increasing their own comfort level with talking about money matters, right? Will help them be able to talk about money matters with their children.
Wonderful thoughts there. Let's go back to Paige to ask. Now, we've got a real gem here about where we get our money values from.
So where do you think kids learn their financial values from?
Well, I would hope that they would learn them at home. I don't know if the school systems teach them. I think maybe they're starting to now. In my day, they didn't. But I do think it would be a good idea for both sets, for both school and parents, to address that for kids.
I think they learn it from parents, from grandparents, and society as well.
I would like to say from family, but there's a whole lot of pressure these days for kids to be consumers, and that really concerns me because I think they're sold a bill of goods often, so they need to have the right protection and not be fooled by the availability of credit, because credit is a false hope.
I think that definitely if there's sort of a culture of debt acceptance, that can be really pervasive. If people are very comfortable with living with debt, that can impact kids that you have, and obviously the family dynamic and everything. So I think inevitably the way that you learn how your relationship with money and how much that can impact relationships definitely stems from your parents in an early childhood.
So Allison, I'm going to throw this one in your direction. As a parent yourself, yes. Are parents in for a tough fight, getting their kids' attention, but more importantly, instilling those financial values?
I actually don't think it's that hard to get their attention. I think they want to be prepared for the future, and they innately want information about their lives. So if we're there in their face, but in their face in a friendly way, right, saying, what's your feelings and thoughts about finances and budgeting and things, and they pick up a lot through what we say and do.
So kids are going to be real comfortable surrendering their iPads and their phones and stuff like that to talking mom and dad about money issues. Is that right?
Yeah, but that's what I said, like we have to make it fun. For example, if they're 7 and we're talking about money, make fun jars, colors, so make it fun. And when they're older, let's talk, you're 14, you're 15, let's talk about the car you want to buy when you're 18. And let's plan that, let's budget that.
Well, what I've been hearing here is we want to encourage parents to get involved. We'll be right back.
I think it is so imperative to have classes in school about money and money management and like starting that dialogue really early.
Welcome back. Many parents feel that financial literacy is their domain, but they're struggling with what a gargantuan task this is. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, it's looking at the tasks and just taking it one step at a time. Look at the practical things that you can do to make this easier. It doesn't have to be so overwhelming.
But there is just so much information that they have to know.
And they don't have to know it all at once, right? It is step by step. Have family meetings in which they can have input, and I mean real input. Allow them to make some decisions with part of, a very small part, but part of the family budget.
Ida, we've seen, everybody's saying this, the small child in the grocery store, 4 or 5 years of age, that needs and wants discussion. Is that appropriate?
Yes, but make it in a way that, it could be fun for the child. Okay, this is the need, this is the want. When I give you an allowance, you could buy your wants when they're that age, but with my money, with the money of the family, we'll do what the need is. So then they could also understand the value of money.
Sometimes that toughest conversation is the very first conversation. Let's go back to Paige for some perspectives on kids and money.
How do you think that we could help facilitate money management conversations with kids?
Teach them at a young age and continue to teach them, and also in school they should be taught as well.
Perhaps, if it were me, now I don't have kids, but if I did, I would give them an allowance and then I would teach them how to do a budget with that allowance. And I think that would be a good place to start, so that they learn early, that, money is given to them and they have to earn it to get more. And if you spend it all at once, it's gone. So it's sort of a math technique, right, to teach them how you can keep track of your money.
I think including them in financial decisions and helping them learn about money through allowances and helping them to budget through that way would be a good way.
It is so imperative to have classes in school about money and money management and like starting that dialogue really early in terms of like having your own personal budget and what that looks like. I struggled with that definitely once I hit college. I think once you're on your own, it's a whole other world. So I think once you're able to actually like do that in an early stage, that's a really positive thing.
So I gotta ask, where would you go with this?
Well, as I was saying, start young and make it simple and make them involved in this. So I think that was also the message of everybody. Start young, and it's never too late. If your child is already a teenager, it's not too late for them to start. It's better for them to learn now than when they're on their own and they're gonna make mistakes. That could cost them a lot.
So Allison, if money is dark and secretive, how does that affect them?
Mistakes are a natural part of growing and learning. So in regards to money and talking to your kids about money, don't shame them around their mistakes. They might be grieving a bad mistake they made, but you get to be there teaching them, but you also get to be there providing safety while they learn.
So Ida, Allison raised a phrase here, money shame. It's so pervasive in our lifestyle. What are your thoughts on that?
And unfortunately, it's a thing that exists. It's not only for our kids. We have a lot of shame and fear around money. And we put that to our kids too. And that should slowly stop because we don't want our kids to have the same shame with the money. We want them to be comfortable, but we want them to be careful how they spend their money so they don't have to have all these feelings and fears.
Ida, I like what you said here today. Let's go back to Cheryl. Do you feel there's a need to complement the financial literacy programs being taught in schools these days?
Absolutely, Jim. You know, we used to own that real estate. Schools are finally getting up to speed in offering financial literacy education in the classroom, but there's still a big gap.
So how is it that junior achievement stands out from many of the other financial literacy trainings out there?
One of the things that differentiates junior achievement from any other financial literacy program out there is the fact that volunteers are the folks coming in and facilitating these programs, and along the way they bring the real world experience with them.
Real world experience, okay. And how are the kids responding to that?
They love it, you know, they get to have a new public speaker in the classroom, and they're learning about these, you know, learning about jobs, and they're learning about money management skills. Oftentimes we have, you know, financial folks coming in and delivering these programs, and the students absolutely love it.
The parents were often sharing with me their concerns about their kids' financial literacy and what this means for their futures. Now I have to ask, what are you going to do with this type of a question?
Well, I'm happy to have that type of a question. That's the step in the right direction. When people are asking questions, when they're looking for solutions, when they're open to looking at different things. And I think it's about creating, not just in children, but in adults, what I would call money mindfulness.
Money
Right?
mindfulness. Ida?
Yeah. So you don't have to have all the worries that comes with money. They want to equip their kids. They want to seek professional help if it's harder for them, so they don't have to worry about their kids when they're growing up.
Now, are parents harboring a wish that sometimes they would bring this up as a discussion, or is it pretty natural for them?
Well, I think they want their children to be safe and secure. They're not always thinking about it in that practical manner. And they're usually the ones, you know, they're going to need to be in the lead. But boy, if your children are bringing up questions, even better. That's an awesome opportunity to jump in and respond to them.
So, Ida, do you have to create an environment for this openness to continue these discussions?
Yes, you have to make them feel it's safe. It's okay, as we said, to make mistakes. It's okay not to know everything. Even as a parent, say like, you know, I had debts. Explain to them what happened, so it feels safe and it feels like we're doing this as a team.
What I'm hearing here is where kids get their financial values from is so important. We'll be right back.
Well, we're definitely seeing huge debt loads. We're seeing students graduating from high school that are not prepared to, you know, live on their own as young adults.
Welcome back. It's now time to get our panel's final thoughts on family and money, talking to your kids about money. Ida, I got to get your thoughts on this.
So final thoughts, make it fun, make it safe, make it a family thing, and you know, let them do the mistakes now. It's better for them to do a mistake when they're 10, when they're 14, that they overspend, than when they're 25 and it ruins your credit score. Personally, I was good at saving when I was young, but when I got a credit card when I was 18, I forgot to make my minimum payments. I didn't know it was gonna affect my credit score. So teach them now, because the mistakes that they're gonna do, it's not as bad as if they get older.
So there's consequences when some of these decisions don't go right.
Exactly. And for example, in my case, it's not like I didn't have money. I was always good at saving. But I didn't know that, you know, like you have to pay your minimum payments, or you have to pay the whole thing, because if not, it affects your credit score. And credit scores, it takes many years for it to change or to be erased, you know?
I had some interesting stuff there. I'd like to go back to Cheryl for her final thoughts.
You know, there's still a real need for our programs, and we want to grow. We want to be able to offer our programs to more students across British Columbia. And with that, we have a real need for more volunteers.
Now, you've told us before that volunteers are the backbone of your organization. Could you tell us why they're getting involved with your program and what sort of feedback they're giving you?
Absolutely. You know, first of all, they love our programs. They love the kind of content that we're sharing with students. They themselves likely didn't have a program like this when they were, you know, going through school, and they find that the topics are incredibly relevant and important.
Now, the lack of financial literacy is quite a challenge out there. What sort of things are we seeing these days that represent a problem?
Well, we're definitely seeing huge debt loads. We're seeing students graduating from high school that are not prepared to, live on their own as young adults.
So what sort of issues do the junior achievement programs help the students learn?
Students at the end of the day learn how to be great money managers and how to be smart with a checkbook.
Well, Allison, I've saved the best for last. The final words are yours.
Well, thank you, Jim. And one thing I'd like to say is something with parents is that we often end up putting in, allowance and chores together. And I actually believe that chores should be just about contributing in your home, and that allowance should be about teaching them about money. And so I actually encourage parents to separate those two, because it's teaching your children about money isn't about controlling their behavior, and it isn't about a negotiation for chores. It's actually about a life skill that they really need.
Now, Allison, the problem we hear from some families is getting through to their kids. Is that maybe why they use the reward side of the equation?
I think it's the quick and easy way of doing it, but I don't always think it's the best way of doing it. The children are innately curious, and if we hit them in that spot of curiosity, I think they will want to learn. And the other piece is that, we want to also teach them about contribution. Finances and money. Money has an energy to it, but that energy isn't just about taking in. It is actually about spending. It is about a flow, and it's also about contributing to other people.
Well, listen, I got to tell you, I wish we had a lot more time here. I want to thank Cheryl, Allison, and Ida for sharing their thoughts on money matters. Because financial aspects touch so many elements of our lives, it pays to get great advice. Plan more and worry less.